Hi everybody, Desmo here. Path of Exile 2 Early Access has been out for months now, and while it brings exciting new features like challenging campaign, endless Atlas exploration, and new character class and ascendancies, there is several areas where the game needs improvement to reach its full potential. Today, we'll explore these issues and discuss potential solutions that could make PoE 2 the ultimate ARPG experience. To begin with, user interface and quality of life. In PoE 2, there is a lack of explicit information. As an example, you can easily miss that your elemental resistances are being reduced by 10% at the end of every act. Some quest direction displays and interface lacks clarity, and I'm sure many new players have found themselves wondering where they have to go next and what to do after finishing some part of the campaign. On a related note, at the end of some quests, mostly for end-of-act bosses, we end up in a closed environment without the possibility to progress by walking or going through a door or a portal, which can feel unnatural and frustrating for a modern game. In PoE 1, in this situation, there was an NPC who would come up and open a portal for the player. Think about Dominus, Malakai or Kitara for example, where the player gets a portal opened or is automatically being teleported to the next zone. In PoE 2, there is the Maltan Waterways area in Act 3. After activating the last lever for the quest, you feel simply stuck there. The world's map open, but interacting with it does nothing. I'm sure there's many players who kept looking around after completing that quest for the first time, wondering if there was anything left to do. One last example on that topic is the Ancient Vault quest in Act 2. Clicking the receptacle should automatically open our inventory or place the relics where they belong. Making us open the inventory feels unnecessary and tedious since there is no choice to be made there. If there was different relic to be placed, this could have a meaningful aspect. The next two issues are highly related and are linked to the Atlas progression. To begin with, I think the rare monster should always be visible on the minimap. It's way too frustrating when clearing a Waystone and realize you passed a few meters away from a target. You then have to go all the way back to be able to get map completion. A first solution would be to make rare monsters icon always visible on the minimap, but only on proximity. That would preserve the incentive for players to explore the entire map, which is clearly the intention here. A last option which I would like to see in addition to the previous one is to implement checkpoints into Waystone. So if we miss something, we can quickly travel back without traveling through an empty area, which really makes no sense. Another issue that I see is the well in town to refill flask.
Come on!
This is an extra step to the game that is not challenging, not fun, and that holds no sense to me except making the game feel more realistic because you refill your bottle at the well. But I don't think that PoE players like the game because it feels realistic. This feature is just annoying and time consuming, and I would really like to see it gone. The last aspect that I would like to change for quality of life and user interface is the Act 2 caravan mechanic. I can imagine how developers must have felt excited, with a cool moving town which you have to move to get to the next quest. But I think it is just confusing, time consuming, and again, adds nothing in terms of fun or challenge. If there is not any of that for a game, the feature is probably not good and should be reviewed or removed. On the next part, let's talk about the core gameplay mechanic issues. My biggest disappointment after completing PoE 2's campaign for the first time was the lack of character flexibility. What I mean is, it feels that there is not much of a choice in the way we are going to progress our character, and that we are going to be severely punished if we deviate from what the developers have planned for us to use, whether it's with the skill gems or the skill tree. It was one of the best aspects of PoE 1, and I truly hope we can get that feeling of freedom back for the way we are building character in PoE 2. Something extremely frustrating for me, which is probably due to my experience in PoE 1, is the mobility speed. I think that the mobility skills are less accessible in PoE 2 because the developers want us to interact more with the combat mechanics and not just teleport and dodge everything during boss fight. This is very punishing during exploration phase, especially when you have to backtrack or going through a zone that lacks enemies. A solution could be to implement a sprint feature, a bit like dodge roll, which would allow us to speed through a certain distance, but would prevent us to use any skill at the same time and to make us more vulnerable while using it. This is an obvious one, but we need to speak about that. Life builds are clearly weak right now, and we need to see more ways to increase our life pool other than that just with gears. Energy shield feels absolutely overpowered in comparison with not only increase on the tree but also auras to improve it. On the same topic, melee and armor needs a buff, especially armor, which is by far the weakest defense versus evasion or energy shield. Another aspect of the game that needs improvement is the tree. I'm speaking about both skill and Atlas tree. In PoE 1, there were some nodes that were absolutely build-defining and iconical. Think about Back to Basic as an example. I would like to see more defining nodes like that on the trees. Up next, let's speak about the charms. They were supposed to replace the utility flask from PoE 1, but they are so underpowered that any build could not use them and feel not much difference. Many of them are even completely useless, like the resistance charm. Getting 25% increased resistance every now and then will change nothing. They need a real boost to become meaningful, like giving extra maximum resistance and probably more frequent activation or longer duration. A last topic for the quality of life is the runes. In the current state of the game, the restriction from swapping runes from gears feels very punishing and counterproductive. Many players are actually keeping their rune slot empty, praying that they will put something that will be obsolete in a short period of time. Allowing us to swap runes will not only fix that issue, but also make up for the absence of bench crafting and flexibility on gears. I remember Jonathan saying that they wanted players to feel good about drops during campaign. This would be a good step in that direction. Next global topic is trading and economy. We need a player-to-player in-game trade tool. The recent Hacking Unfortunate event has shed light on the fact that trading through a website is a part of a problem that we could partially fix by trading in-game directly. This is a complex issue, but probably one of the most important ones. Next hot topic is increased item rarity. The community is very divided on that, and finding a solution that will satisfy everyone is nearly impossible. But developers are constantly balancing magic find since the very first day of PoE 1, and we can trust developers on that issue. Next, we need to acknowledge the fact that crafting is in a very weird place at the moment. It was one of the most iconic and complex aspects of PoE 1, and it leaves us with a kind of underwhelming feeling at the moment. Maybe it's better like that for new players, and probably it would evolve towards something much more complex through time, but we really need something more stimulating fast, or I fear people will get bored quickly. Now, let's speak about the endgame mechanic issues. Expedition, to begin with, is in a very weird spot. It is not rewarding, and it is a pain in the ass to use. Having to have your expedition currencies in your inventory to be able to craft makes it really annoying to use. It's likely that we will have a related stash in the future to handle it. I just hope that it's not gonna be some tabs we will have to buy, since there was a free stash for game mechanic in PoE 1, like Haste, Expedition and Sanctum. Let's speak about the Atlas. The new Endless Atlas was one of the most exciting new features we got to see before actually playing the game. It is a great concept, but feels really bad for many players in its current state. To begin with, there is way too many layouts that are unpopular, which makes exploring the Atlas a pain in the ass. A solution would be to unlock a favor system like in PoE 1, which would allow us to pick up a pool of layouts which would be the only one appearing on the Atlas going forward. Another solution could be to allow us to reset some region of the Atlas, or maybe just one layout at a time, which could also fix the issue of some region not being accessible. Another issue is the Citadels. They are mandatory to access the in-game bosses, but the chase can quickly become a nightmare due to their rarity. Finding them should become more and more deterministic as we explore the Atlas. Also, failing a Citadel in the current state of the game feels way too punishing. Then we need to speak about the towers. They are a minor issue in the game. In my opinion, the incentive to use a lower level Waystone doesn't feel too good. We should want to use even greater level Waystone since the tablets are so powerful. Some solution could be to have a deterministic event, like bosses, on every tower, dedicated rewards like additional effects on tablets, which would scale with Waystone level being used on towers, or anything really that would prevent that feeling of just running something vain and boring. A quick word on retroll, since I didn't experience it too much myself, but it is already well known that the invitation is way too rare. And this leads to the last issue that I want to talk about for the endgame mechanics. The fact that we have to grind a mechanic to be able to get its dedicated Atlas point feels counterproductive. The Atlas tree was great in PoE 1 because you could invest in a mechanic beforehand, which means that you could focus on it and run that mechanic even more. In PoE 2, keeping the example of retroll, many players have to buy invitation first to be able to farm a mechanic, which doesn't feel too healthy. There's many more issues we could talk about, and please let me know in the comment if there is any other you wish I did spoke about today. I would like to remind you that this video is focusing on issues, and that despite everything, PoE 2 is an absolutely amazing game. Still in early access, and I had a blast grinding it until now, and that I still intend to grind a lot more in the future. The game is going to evolve a lot, and, in comparison, PoE 1 took a lot of time to get to the level that we know today and to become the best game that I ever played. This is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, please like and subscribe, and until my next video, take care of yourself and bye!